Thursday. It is. We're flipping things around. Savant Friday, Savant Thursday.
Wait, it's not Friday?
Yeah, it's not Friday. Don't get confused. It is
Man.
Thursday, May 2nd, 2024. Do you know where your children are? I love that.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I remember. I just dropped her off, so hopefully she's good.
Channel 3 News in Memphis. It's 10 o'clock. Do you know where your children are? That's a question. That's on the news here every night. Brenden Martin down in Ocala, executive producer Rob Browne here with you. Got horse capital of the world. Frank Duffy driving on Bingo 1, coming back from Palm Springs. Doug Dean joins us momentarily. Dave Tompkins had a meeting conflict, not able to be on here for Savant Thursday. Now, tomorrow, we got Tony Barnhart, Paul Feinbaum going to be on. Kind of a wild schedule, all that happening on Friday, so we flipped some stuff around. We'll have our regular Thursday crew, Bo Carter, John Hartwell, Matt Dean, Gary Harrison, all back on next Thursday. So anyway, bottom line, smash the subscribe button in the bottom right-hand corner. Allow notifications on your Android or iPhone. And look, a lot of talk, a lot of chatter from one of my text threads. Oh, Feinbaum was just playing to the crowd about Ole Miss. Blah, blah, blah. Lane Kiffin's nothing. Listen, that's from a Tennessee fan. God love him. One of my best friends. Angry, still mad about Kiffin leaving them years ago. Like the girlfriend that broke up with you in high school. If all you ever talked about are your high school glory days, you need to go do something else to have some new glory days. Look, Lane Kiffin left after one season. Not a good look, but you know what? He's got Ole Miss right now. You ask about their defense. They signed 4 of the top 5 defensive linemen available in the portal. There's a lot to talk about in SEC football right now. The baseball race, it looks like it's Arkansas's to lose the whole thing. They got to come through this year. The Hog fans desperately driving, need it now. We'll talk about it in about 42 seconds.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, we're going to talk sporty to that guy.
Look at his outfit.
Look at Duffy driving.
Duffy.
I've told that story to 173 people about the heroics 2 weeks ago on Bingo 1. Frank, how are you doing this morning? You see that big sunlight as you're heading back east?
That's exactly right. And I tell you what, I'm trying to dodge it. I'm trying to keep it out of my eyes. I didn't know which song I was going to have Brenden do for my bumper music today. It's either Eastbound and Down, Roading Up and Trucking, or Amarillo by Morning, Terry Stafford. So that's where I'm heading.
Going?
I'm Albuquerque. We just left Albuquerque. Had a little coffee, cranked up Bengal 1. Now we're headed straight east on I-40, heading toward Amarillo, then Oklahoma City, that area, and then on to Little Rock, where we might stop and see our horse up at Hot Springs.
Hey, Oak Lawn over there, that's a big ass deal. And,
it is.
Here in Memphis, everybody, we go to, of course, the Cherry Farm. People love horses, and Oak Lawn is a big deal. We got the Derby this weekend. Our man, part of Savant Friday, Dave Tompkins, had to bow out this morning. His meeting for his capital raise got moved up to 9 a.m. Eastern for him, and he is not going to be able to be with us, but we're going to talk some Derby talk today because this is the 150th anniversary.
Right.
But Frank and Doug Dean will be on with us in just a minute. He's maneuvering his way through that always congested at any time of the day Birmingham traffic.
And by the way, Rob, we call that a scratch in the horse game. Dave's been scratched.
Mm-hmm.
He was not able to make it to the post.
He's a healthy scratch.
He's a healthy scratch.
In years of going all over the country in the AKC hunt test for the retriever trials for my hunting dogs. I've always had males. If you have a female and they go in heat, you got to scratch it. They can't be on the grounds, and so that's part of it. But it's pretty damn nice too.
That's what happened to Two Bells, our filly, on her first race when she was racing her first race to break her maiden. She was damn in heat. She was sat in the gate, wouldn't break from the gate because she's rubbing herself up against the back of the gate. I was like, what the heck? You've been training for 9 months. And now you go and eat.
Yeah, like I said, a male dog or a male horse, the stud fee that you get can be absolutely incredible. That's why I've always trained my dogs year round, every day, basically, because hunting season lasts X number of months, but they are athletes. You got to train them just like these horses. And the Derby is going to be 150 this weekend. Several guys from my office are up there as guests of one of the companies we work with. They've got a big suite up there at Churchill Downs. But you know what, Frank?
So why are we here?
I
know.
To
figure it out that part.
Well, next year we're going,
Dave. I was really nice to Dave, and
we're going next year
for sure.
We're doing it next year. We can't do it this year because what he's got going on, and he's going to be our entree into there. But we're going to do the show live from the Derby next year. That's going to be fun. Frank, I think it's a week-long series of parties. It's kind of like Cotton Carnival in Memphis or Mardi Gras.
It's fabulous. I love Derby Week. In fact, I was there last year. The year before that, I took off. Then the year before that, I went for a stretch in the mid-teens about 4 or 5 years in a row. Going back to my very first Derby of 1989, which was the incredible battle, the duel between Easy Goer and Sunday Silence. Easy Goer missed out on the Triple Crown by being beat by Sunday Silence in that last Belmont Stakes. But Easy Goer, it was an incredible horse. And so, I love the Derby. It is a fabulous time to go. Today is Thurby, which is really cool because the tickets are not as bad as the Kentucky Oaks and the Derby, which have gotten to be extremely expensive. In fact, my group last year, I wound up getting us a box for 6, and it wound up being $10,500 split by 6 guys. But I've actually been to Derbies where it was over $2,000 a man for a six-person box. And then the year that Ron and I went, it was for our 2 tickets. They had just opened up that new clubhouse /grandstand on the first turn. And I think we probably paid about $1,000 for the 2 days for the 2 of us there. So it is a big deal. Oaks Day tomorrow is my favorite because you still have the anticipation of the Derby to come, but it's fun. Everybody's wearing their seersuckers, their pink ties, their white bucks. It is just a spectacle to see women in all their hats.
I love the hats.
And if you get lucky and have good weather, that's 90% of the game. I've been there when it's been ice cold to where I literally looked down at my ankles and they were blue. That was my first Derby in 89. Winds were howling. It was probably about 37, 38 degrees. And then I've been there when it's been monsoons. In fact, a couple of years ago when we had the DQ, it was just one of the nastiest, sloppiest tracks. We were all sloppy wet. In fact, last year on Oaks Day, we were literally holding off one of the biggest storms I've ever seen on Churchill Downs. We literally got it in under the wire, and as we were walking out, we were walking over to a party of ours right there off of, where all the hospitality tents are. Yeah. And the second we got underneath it, I'm telling you, it was a Noah's Ark sort of flood, and we were all just thankful we got it out. But it is a fabulous time, and it is truly, Rob, Brenden, if you've never been in person, your heart beats out of your chest when they put them in the gate for the Derby. I mean, I love the Oaks, but man, that Derby, your heart just palpitates. And when you hear that bell go off and they come out, it truly is the two greatest minutes in sports.
Yeah, and you know what's cool? Horses. There's any country that doesn't have horses, it's not a real country. I always remember Full Metal Jacket. The BBC is in Da Nang interviewing American Marines, and they get to Cowboy, and they said, "What do you think about America being in Vietnam?" And he says, "Well, what do I think about America being in Vietnam?" He goes, "Hell, I'm from Texas. Vietnam ain't got any horses. What kind of country doesn't have horses?" And I think
something fundamentally wrong.
Yeah. Well, you know what, Frank and Brenden lives down there among them. I live in Memphis. Germantown, part of Memphis, Shelby County, and Collierville, is the per capita has more horses than any place in America. And the Germantown Charity Horse Show and all this, there are still massive farms, and so many of my friends own horses. I've got one that owns 25, maybe 30 right now. But bottom line,
my dad used to have Tennessee walking horses. They're absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
Their gait is so unique, obviously. But Brenden, the limestone of Ocala, short of Lexington and that bourbon trail of where those farms are, the next best place, in my opinion, for breeding horses is Ocala because of the limestone. They get a great crop, and there's only 20,000 fillies and colts that are born every year. It is a totally egalitarian system. If you're fast, you're good, and you make money. If you're not, sorry, there's no participation trophies.
Yeah.
You go to pasture, right?
Yeah.
And so every one of us, like even with my filly this year. Now I've got my next filly coming up. She's a 2-year-old getting ready to go in training here in Hot Springs. Nip it in the bud in honor of Barney Fife. I'm telling you what, I can't tell you how excited we are about her. We knew that our first filly that just came out, she didn't do well. She was undersized, but this filly that we've got coming up is a monster. And look, we all dream when they drop foal in the spring, whether it's Ocala or in Lexington or in upstate New York near Saratoga, or whether it's in Louisiana, which is also great racing territory and breeding, with the fairgrounds in New Orleans. But no matter where they drop, you always think that you've got a shot. If it's a little girl, you're going to be in the Oaks, and if it's a colt, you're thinking roses. And I mean, our little colt that just got born about a month and a half ago, you see them, and they're a week old, but you're envisioning them putting that bed of roses on that horse. Yeah. And again, and you can only make only 0.0001 of it's not as bad as hitting the Powerball, but it's damn close to having to hit the Powerball to get a horse in there. And by the way, I got a couple of acquaintances of mine, West Paces Racing in Georgia, which will never let us have racing. The Gold Dome won't allow it. The legislature's not going to ever allow it, though they're trying to push it. Dan Reeves' brother, who had tax in the Derby 3 years ago, he and a group are pushing it. They're just never going to get it done in Georgia. But a group out of West Paces, called West Paces Racing, they're kind of a Billy Bean Moneyball sort of stables. They're kind of like us. We're not throwing a lot of money in. We're picking and choosing, and if we get a good claimer, or if we get a good mare. And by the way, you were talking about the dogs, the males being the prevalent. There's something about claiming or buying at an allowance sale or at a 2-year-old in training sale or a yearling sale a filly, because if they don't hit it on the track, they can then turn around and give you babies, because that's who owns the foals is the female, not the male. You got to pay for that stud fee, but it's the female that gets it. Whereas in the dogs, the sire gets the pick of the litter, and the females stay with the rest. So, but I'm gonna tell you right now, every person thinks they've got a shot, and this West Paces Ferry group has not one horse in the Derby. They've got 2. What are the odds that 2 out of the 20 horses are going to come from one little operation in a state that doesn't even have racing. That's what a crapshoot this is.
Yeah. Okay. That's what's cool. You've got 20. And I think all of us would agree, and everybody watching this show, the number of analogies that are used in college football in the South alone that come from the Kentucky Derby. I mean, I remember Coach Dye would always say, I'm going to tell you something. Sooner or later, the race goes to the horse who thinks he can. That's what it comes down to. And he goes, you got to put them blinders on. You know, up there at the line, you got 20 horses around you. Put blinders on. We use that in everyday vernacular.
But hey, Rob, it helps if that horse that believes he can is Cam Newton.
That's right. Or Bo Jackson, or Tim Tebow, or Jaden Daniels, or Archie Manning.
That's right.
I'll agree with that. You're not going to win the Kentucky Derby with a plow mule. I'm sorry. It ain't going to happen.
Going back to what I said about the egalitarianism of the industry, you can't get in by paying your way into the Derby. There's a point system. You have to earn your way to the Derby and the Oaks. There are preliminary races. Look, Brenden will tell you the Florida Derby is a wonderful Derby. The Louisiana Derby, the Arkansas Derby. The Arkansas Derby, they've made a move kind of like the Peach Bowl did 15 years ago when it was a secondary bowl. Yes. And it said, no, boys, we're going to put on a damn good show. My boy Swafford and the boys, came up with an incredible bowl, and then they got into 5-6 bowl, premium rotation. Well, Oaklawn has done that because of all the purses that they're doing. They've made a huge move. That's why we had our Arkansas, because we wanted access on our first 2 foals to those Archie bred races because the purses are almost twice as much.
Well, and it's getting more people involved in it. Yeah. And Frank, Doug Dean is on with us right now in Birmingham. Doug, as the special assistant to the mayor for everyone who drives through Birmingham, would you speak on our behalf and say, is the interstate system, they don't tell you how many people really live in the metro Birmingham area. It's got to be 1 million. And I go through, Birmingham is so close to Memphis now. It's as close to Birmingham as it is to Nashville. That's how, with the Interstate 22 like it is. Glad you're on here with us, but another crazy morning. Having a morning talk show in Birmingham is solid gold, isn't it?
Yeah, and listen, anybody that lives in Birmingham or Huntsville, some cities that size, and is bitching about traffic needs to be given a free week in Atlanta or Nashville.
Yeah.
Everything. Come on over to Atlanta.
Come on, Rob, but Rob Brown, don't try to change the subject. Duff, stay with me here. We know our place now, right. Duff. Yeah, we got bumped by the great Paul Feinbaum and Tony Barnhart. We know our place now.
No, hey, when Mr. College Football and Paul Feinbaum bump you, there's no shame in that.
No, there's not. I said that. I hope Rob does not mind my teaser there, or Brenden, because that is a good get right there, Rob Brown.
No, well, Doug D. Some might say they're the backbenchers to you and I here on Idiot Savant Thursday, the newly named Idiot Savant Thursday.
Yeah, you know what's funny is like when Paul Feinbaum was in Memphis Monday speaking to the Touchdown Club, and I asked him about coming on, and he said, Friday works, and so we moved some stuff around. But the thing is, having the way it is right now in this time of year. There are some people that take off. You're crazy. You don't stop running. You don't stop going to the gym or swimming or biking or lifting or doing stretching every day. You don't stop taking a shower every day. Well, some people do, unless you're out at UCLA protesting or something. But bottom line,
Rob, I'm going to send you a couple of questions that'll be uncomfortable to put to Paul, but you got to do it, okay?
Hey, you can ask them. Stripes. Hey, it's I think the number one thing I'm catching, guys, and Doug, I've got a Tennessee fan, one of my best friends. he hates Kiffin so bad. And he goes, Ole Miss will never win anything. He's never done anything, blah, blah, blah. Well, number one, he doesn't have to play Nick Saban this year. That's good for starters.
Yeah, it's true. And man, what a time to be alive, right? We've got if you had any monotony about college football, it has been blown to smithereens. And now what you got to do is adjust to the wackiness. You got to cling to your faith that we'll still be playing some semblance of college football 20 years from now, but it's sure as hell going to look different. It's the semi-pros, brother.
Hey, it's crazy, Doug, because look on our schedule. I'm playing USC and UCLA, which I can't even say they're Pac-12 teams anymore. They're Big Ten teams, and my craziest rival, the crazy cousins that we get to play every year for the most exciting game, Auburn, is not on the schedule. We have absolutely gone inside out of the looking glass.
Yeah, and there's some what's the right word? There's some polarity. I think that's a good word here. But when Auburn and LSU play, it seems like too many years Auburn is red hot. Like we had Bo Nix able to go into your Tigers' den and get out of there alive. On really, frankly, Bo Nix just won that game on pure individual.
He sure did.
And ridiculous throws. He didn't even see somebody saw this Browne long mane of hair flashing downfield and just threw the ball. Got lucky. But
that fourth down play. Well, we have many plays in Tiger Stadium that are in lore that are on the good side. There's not many that have really been perpetrated against us on the bad side. That play will go down in the pantheon of 4th and long and what he did to keep that play alive. Because I think if we stop y'all on that play, y'all don't win the game.
Oh, you win the game, but hey, cry me a river, 4th and 31.
Oh yeah, no, I get it, brother. I still have scars from that, and I didn't have a dog in that fight.
So y'all picked your horses. Where is Dave? We need Dave to give us some free.
Dave had to bow out. Emergency meeting got moved up to 9 a.m. Eastern. He texted me this morning. So, man, Derby, next year we're going up there for 151. We got to take the whole crew to do that. That's going to be an event. But we've been talking about it. And 20 horses. And, Doug, before you came on, I asked this to Frank. Think of how many great sports analogies there are, especially in the South, that coaches use comparing to the Kentucky Derby. Blinders, and sooner or later the race goes to the horse who thinks he can. Pat Dye. There's so many of them. You ain't going to win the Kentucky Derby with a plow mule. Got to have a thoroughbred. He rode
that running back hard and put him up wet. He rode that running back hard and put him up wet. I can still hear Danny Ford saying that.
Maybe Kentucky Derby can give us a metaphor. For some reason, driving in this morning, my twisted, demented college football mind weaved its way back to I've forgotten the year, Rob, and you're the one with the steel trap for a brain. Georgia was going to Tuscaloosa, and Pat Dye helped Georgia win that game.
2007.
Without even playing. He said, Georgia is not man enough to run the football.
Yeah, that was 2007. He said, Georgia ain't man enough. And they got the win, didn't they?
And Georgia's damn hair was on fire blocking and running the football in that game. There's going to be some horse that strides out there going to the gate, getting ready to go, get in the, have the starting gun, and a few other horses are going to just look at that one, and they've already lost the race. They're going to be intimidated out of winning.
Well, Doug, you're right. That happened exactly with Justify about 4 or 5 years ago when he won the Triple Crown. I remember watching him work out. See, today is the morning. In fact, they've already done it. They do it literally an hour before daybreak. They start getting the horses ready. So the Oaks horses will go out and stretch their legs on yesterday morning, because they're racing tomorrow. We're out this morning. And 3-4 years ago when Justify won it, I happened to be there with my buddies from Dallas. Not the crew that I took last year from LSU, but my Dallas buddies. And we got to stand up on the observers platform. In fact, I was standing literally a few feet from Bob Baffert, watching the horses go by. This was, of course, before his exile after all the shenanigans. Just up and gallop, and you can literally see that.
Hey,
when
we're losing Frank. I think he's going. He's just left Albuquerque on Bengal 1, so kind of was worried that might happen, but hopefully he can get a good signal and come back in. Brenden, just when you see something strong enough, we'll try it. But Doug, looking ahead, again, the Derby is a massive event. Like I said, the most exciting 2 minutes in sports. What you just mentioned, what we're going to see in college football going 15, 20 years out. There are a lot of people right now and that are having a hard time digesting all this talk about Ole Miss being in the hunt for the CFP. It's not the 4-team CFP, folks. This is the 12-team CFP. And Connor O'Gara was on the show with us yesterday, Saturday Down South. Love that guy. And he said, look, for Ole Miss, it's pretty much playoff or bust, Doug Dean. Yeah. And Frank, glad we got you back here. I'm going to throw it to you, Doug, and then to Frank. Just kind of a quick response to that, people are just playing to the crowd, picking Ole Miss. Ole Miss is pretty damn good because they ended up getting 4 of the top 5 available defensive linemen that were out there in the portal. Just big picture, not trying to get you to dig. Yancey Porter covers Ole Miss in detail for us, but you're great with the big picture. You're also great at defining narratives and exposing them.
Well, you've got to stop. We have talked about this, Rob. You've got to stop setting me up for failure.
I'm not trying to do that.
Hey, Rob, you want
football we've ever had on the show? Then something really mediocre and sophomore comes out of my mouth, and people wonder if I'm the wrong guy.
No, I'm just saying big picture, not.
Hey, Doug, I break out in a cold sweat thinking he's going to ask me about the Pythagorean theorem, and we didn't have that at LSU.
No, well, what Brian Kelly was thinking, giving an interview, opining about what the loss of Nick Saban will mean in college football. We'll get back to that. On Ole Miss, Rob, I confess as a diehard Auburn guy, but I love all of college football, not just the SEC. I really do. I think that when you start commenting on the game of football, if you don't transcend your own fan biases, you become uninteresting in a real hurry. So yes. I'm fascinated. After Auburn, I am fascinated with Ole Miss this season because I'm with you. Kiffin's been there a while now. He's had last year enormous success, more wins than they've maybe ever had, but they're used to having. So they have to start asking yourself, if not 2024, when the Ole Miss football team? They've got a veteran quarterback who's very good, a good roster top to bottom, and they get a break on their schedule, at least on paper. They open the season it looks like all at home. Well, excuse me, the first 2 games at home for tune-ups. They go to Wake Forest September 14th. By the way, this year everybody is starting August 31. And to all the old folks out there and people not in good shape, you better hydrate or not go.
Right.
And most of those night games, I guess. But so before it really gets on paper looks treacherous, unless Georgia Southern comes in September 21 and gives them trouble. They get Kentucky at home. That's a W, in my opinion. To South Carolina, maybe a little tricky, but then Duff will love this. They're in Tiger Stadium October 12th. That is going to be a game you do not want to miss mid-season. Yeah. So I think Ole Miss can can drop the Georgia game, which is at home. I think they'll have a chance to win that one at home. They can drop that one. They can maybe drop one other. And if that resume gets them in the SEC championship game, because we don't have divisions, remember, and they don't play Alabama, then I don't see how. Well, they would have to win the SEC championship game. But I think a 2-loss Ole Miss team is what we're going to get, and they're in the 12-team playoff.
Yeah,
I would agree.
Yeah. And let me say this in defense of what Doug just said. It would be impossible for me to do this show every day and to bring y'all on as well if we weren't, as Audrey says, I get as fired up, and she says y'all get as a group as fired up about other schools as you do your own school. That's how this show works, because you're right. It is awful to be around some just miserable jerk that just, it's all about his school and he hopes everybody else loses. Well, I can assure you this, nobody wants to show a Gator Bowl with 2 4-4 teams, Georgia and Florida. Okay, they're not going to show it. It's not going to get the highlight. And Doug, I'm with you about the fascination with Ole Miss, because I think I counted it up. I've been to 52 games, football games at Ole Miss over the years. I got a ton of friends that listen and watch the show. I know Stacy Sims over in Charleston's watching right now. Ole Miss fanatic from Meridian, Mr. Sigmanu. I think a lot of them are having a hard time accepting this role. You know, it's different. Frank Duffy, you know, I can tell you, I just had a conversation. People don't realize the hate between Ole Miss and LSU. Frank knows it, but I was talking to a man, and they're 4th generation Ole Miss people, and the kid, the 4th generation, is going to Auburn. And he goes, the only way I can try to explain that he's not going to Ole Miss is his mama is from New Orleans, and that kind of, I said, I get you. And she goes, she hates Ole Miss. But the Magnolia Bowl, Frank, you understand it, not to mention Mississippi State and Ole Miss, you know, but it's crazy, but it's fun.
Well, there's no other school that we wish to spend eternity into the sulfur pits of hell other than Ole Miss. We don't say go to hell Bama. We don't say to go to hell Auburn. But it is go to hell Ole Miss. Now, I will say, that is a older rivalry than a younger rivalry. The one that anybody has been focused on, there's too much admiration and you know, with Auburn, though we have a very competitive rivalry with y'all. There's no bad blood there. There's bad blood between LSU and Alabama, like there's nobody's business, and it's mainly because of Saban. But the other bad blood is between LSU and Ole Miss, and it goes back a long way. Ole Miss still has the red hiney over the fact that we got an extra 1 second when Brad Davis scored in 1972. They're still upset that Jake Gibbs punted to Billy Cannon on Halloween night, because Ole Miss could have won a national championship that year. You know, you know, it is a very big rivalry. Now, I was in Vaught Hemingway when LSU played this year, and that was one of the loudest, you know, away games that I've been to. And they were full of themselves. I almost got a couple scraps just going into the damn place, and I was a 62-year-old man. So I'm telling you, Doug is absolutely right. If not now, when? And Ole Miss fans, though they're not sure of how to handle this, because again, they can't find Atlanta without a road map and 10 flashlights. But now is the time for Ole Miss to step up, because here's the interesting thing. To your point, Rob, you said they have gotten really healthy on the defensive line during the portal. And we all know that when you win in the SEC, it comes from line play. Yes. You know, it's not the flash of the skilled athletes. It is the play on the line that wins games in the Southeastern Conference on a Saturday afternoon. And that, if they've improved that, because that was their Achilles heel last year. I mean, for LSU, Ole Miss, you needed an abacus. It was going to be whoever scored last was going to win that game. And it's going to be probably the exact same in Tiger Stadium. But where we flipped the tables on them in Tiger Stadium 2 years ago, when we contain Jackson Dart. If they do the same thing to Nuss this year, it could be a different story. And I think their crossroads game is going to be the LSU game this year. Yeah. That's going to be the trajectory of where their season goes. If they can come into Tiger Stadium and beat us, then I think they're definitely a playoff-bound team. If we can upset them, then you start hearing the grumblings. You start hearing Kiffin can't win the big games, and there might be a different story. But if they make it through LSU and are 5-0, 6-0 going into that mid stretch, because you're right, they've got an easier path early on. I think Ole Miss is a playoff team. I do.
Yeah, great take on that, Doug Dean. The world we live in, I have to be a pallbearer today in a dear friend's funeral. Biggest Alabama fan I've ever known in my life. He is, I love him. His son's my attorney, Jack Turner, who's on this show regularly. Everyone has to wear a red tie. And I'll wear my red tie today. That's life in the Southeastern Conference. And it just, but that's also, you love these people like my friend John Turner, God rest his soul, love the family. But that's how deep this stuff goes. But everybody wears a red tie today. So I've got to go find a red tie. I don't own a red tie, but I'm telling you.
I've got a tip for you, Rob. Get one that's blood orange.
A red tie. But
blood
I'm
orange.
going to tell you something. But, Doug, you made a great point about, and so did Frank. That's a great take, that game that Ole Miss has at LSU. And looking at the SEC now, just big picture. And Doug, I promise, I wasn't trying to. Yancey Porter will dig deep on all the details of Ole Miss, but you are so good at writing the big picture. But what you are gifted at is also taking setbacks and seeing how you can come back from a setback. The narratives that are out there right now in college football. Do you think Frank's right? Ole Miss, if you say they could lose the Georgia game. Okay, if they lose that one, what's the big win going to be on their schedule? Is it going to be LSU in Tiger Stadium? That's going to be the question. And Doug, and I hope Doug will be able to get this one. But Frank, you're right. At October 12th at Tiger Stadium, that track meet they had last year, was it 55-44, 55-44? But Doug, if Ole Miss loses to Georgia at Vaught-Hemingway Stadium, what's the big game that it's if they don't win that, they're not going to the playoff if they lose two games? You mentioned on that. Yeah. On that schedule, because Georgia is still the team to beat. Georgia and Texas, I think, are.
Rob, we're breaking up bad. I'm trying to. I don't know if it's on your end or mine.
Yeah, we hear you fine, Doug.
We hear you fine. Yeah, we hear you fine.
Yeah.
But I'm looking.
I'll try to go here. It's breaking up awfully hard to even hear. So I think you were asking about Georgia, and that was oddly enough that was my next take on this coming college football season, especially in the SEC. Everyone seems to be jumping on Georgia as playing with a mad on after getting beat by Alabama after such a good year, and that might be the case. Kirby Smart knows how to motivate his guys, but I'm a little skeptical about Georgia, even though they bring a great quarterback, a veteran quarterback back. Here's why: schedules matter, and loss of key playmakers. You there, Rob?
Yeah.
Yeah, Doug, we can hear you,
buddy. I don't know if y'all can hear me, but okay. Loss of key playmakers matters. Let me comment on both of those. To the NFL, everyone knows about Brock Bowers going so high in the first round, as he should have. All the guy does is catch the ball and make huge plays. He's a nightmare to defend. But what I don't hear is many people talking about in a key loss for Georgia, Ladd McConkey, God almighty. I mean, the guy, and he was helped by Brock Bowers. Brock Bowers made Ladd McConkey better for obvious reasons. They had all eyes were on Bowers. But the Chargers traded up 3 spots in the second round to get McConkey. The kid's 6 foot 186, but get this, he ran in the legit NFL combines a 4.39 40.
Yeah.
So I think when you take a security blanket away from even a great quarterback, I'm not going to be surprised in about 3 or 4 games. I'm not saying they'll lose those games, but I do see two regular season losses for Georgia. That's frankly a product of losing key playmakers like that. And they've load up their roster with recruiting and portal gets, but we have to see those incoming playmakers perform, and it's hard to imagine. It's asking too much.
Yeah.
Whoever they are at wide receiver, that they'll be able to perform at McConkey and Bowers level until at least mid to late season, because they open with Clemson, probably a win, but Clemson looked better late season. They are at Alabama, at Texas, at Ole Miss, Duffy, and they play Tennessee, obviously. So, I mean, I think Georgia, the idea that they're just going to walk through the schedule, they got a problem with their schedule.
Yeah,
I agree with you, Doug. And I think that point that you're making, the 2 points, I think that's the bigger of the points, because I think this is probably Georgia's hardest schedule they have ever had as a program. I would dare someone to show me a more daunting schedule for the University of Georgia. I'll bet you they've never seen it. And look, for somebody that's been waltzing through the SEC East and had that, that with Florida being down and Tennessee being down these last, 8 years since Kirby's been there, let me tell you something. All that's changing right now. You got some tough games you got to play, even without Saban in Alabama.
And let me pay Georgia a compliment. The program they built under Kirby and how strong they are. There is going to, depending on if there were 3 losses by Georgia, and maybe one of them is in a SEC championship game, but Georgia, if it's the right 3 losses, Georgia is going to be in the conversation to make the 12-team playoff.
Yeah.
I'm going to throw a big stat out here to you. I don't know if y'all have seen this. Michael Sag just sent this to us, one of our viewers. They rank the schools in terms of walking distance to a Waffle House. Texas A&M, from their stadium, the nearest Waffle House, last place, 69.1 miles. That might explain why the Aggies are struggling. And South Carolina, 0.2 miles from the stadium. Bryant-Denny, 0.4. Georgia, 0.6. Auburn, 0.9. Kentucky, 1.5 miles. That is awesome information by Michael Sag, huge Arkansas fan who watches this show. Okay, so look, let's look at that schedule, Brenden. If you can bring it from the top down again. All right, Doug, you were talking about Georgia's schedule. August 31st, Mercedes-Benz Stadium. And you're right, Clemson, look what Clemson did at the end of last season. That's what Clemson, I think, is this year, Doug Dean.
I think so, and I mean, I'm not bullish on Dabo Swinney. I think that he had a big run. You see it with coaches, but he's done it before. If he gets the right coaching assembled, which Hugh Freeze, I think, is going to show progress on this year. Just getting staff, especially coordinators, that you're more comfortable with, your hand in glove. There's not this musical chairs with personnel during a game. Then if Dabo has calibrated that right, he can absolutely motivate and field a team that can give you trouble, even if you're Georgia.
And look at September 28th.
Yeah. And Doug, one quick thing. And Doug, do you think with Dabo that the talk about the Saban opening, now that that's done, do you think that allows him to relax a little bit more and be more comfortable in his own skin? I know he really didn't attack the portal and NIL the right way, and I think he's suffering from that. But do you think the fact that now everybody's moved on from the will he or won't he, you think that'll help Dabo?
Yeah, let me answer it this way, Duffer. I think that by mid-season, there's a decent chance that people will be saying, boy, I bet Dabo Swinney's breathing a sigh of relief that he didn't succeed Nick Saban, because Kalen DeBoer has got challenges. He's got key losses to the NFL, and it's just so stressful. You make one mistake and the fan base will be immediately comparing you to Nick Saban, even though Saban was in starting year 4, had he stayed, of not winning a national championship. So, I think Dabo was smart enough. I don't know. I don't think they ever really recruited Dabo seriously, but he was smart. Now, you may see Dabo succeed Kalen DeBoer at Alabama if that doesn't work out over, say, 3 to 5 years. But I think
let me throw this.
There.
Yeah. Brenden, if you could put up Florida's schedule, let's look at the Gators' schedule for next year. That's one. And Doug Dean, one thing about you have your patience. You're good with that. I read you regularly. That's where I get this from. But this pulling coaches 2 and 3 years, you get a lot of angry fans. Is it fair? Because this is my observation. When I go to a game at Auburn, or I go to a game at Ole Miss or Tennessee, you're around the season ticket holders. They're not the ones on the shows making all these horrible comments about their school. They're much more positive because they're invested in the program financially. Now, let's look at that Florida schedule. All right, wow. Miami open up the season against the U. You go down from there, Brenden. Those two schools hate each other. Samford,
they do.
Texas A&M, Mississippi State, UCF, the bounce house at Tennessee, at home against Kentucky, Georgia, the world's largest outdoor cocktail party in Jacksonville, at Texas. They got LSU, Ole Miss, Florida State. Start with Frank, Doug. Somebody take a gander at that schedule. Billy Napier, I don't believe they're going to do anything with him. You can't keep pulling the trigger like that. Look what Tennessee did from after 2008. It took them 14 years to get to a double-digit win season until 2022 when they went 11-2.
Take it, Duff.
Well, third year. I mean, you got to keep it in place. I mean, unless he just totally throws the bit and they go 1-4 or 1-5, you got to let him. You got to let him at least get 3 recruiting classes under his belt. I mean, that's a must, right? And so I think Napier is a really good coach. I really do. I think he stepped into an absolute mess. That was left by Mullen. I think it was worse than what even outsiders thought it was. And Brenden can probably talk to that more educated, and Buddy can talk to that, and Franz can talk to that more educated than I can. But that was a absolute disaster that Mullen ran off from. And so I think you got to give Napier at least 4 years to get a cycle in before you dump him. Because look, who are you going to go to? What's the old saying? Unless you know who you're going to pick, why get rid of him?
Yeah, Doug.
Well, I completely agree with both of y'all about the importance, if you look at governance of athletic directors, of being patient enough. The question in this modern era is how do you define enough? And it's situational. It depends on facts and circumstances. So if you watch Billy Napier, and I'm peeking at the schedule, I think they beat Miami at home, but that's not a layup, that's for sure. If they lose, for example, to the Aggies, and then they should beat Mississippi State, but it's in Starkville, then they keep an eye on this game, October 5th, UCF, your favorite coach, Rob, Gus Malzahn. If Rain Man pulls a savant game there and makes Billy Napier look silly, and if they won big, which is not impossible, it's in Ben Hill Griffin Stadium, then the fans are going to start not showing up usually, and there's going to be a lot of pressure. That would be with potentially 2 or 3 losses before mid-October. Then they go to Tennessee. They're not going to beat Tennessee in Neyland Stadium, if you ask me. So then you've got a problem being patient, if that makes sense, Duffy.
Well, first of all, I can tell you that Gus Malzahn does wear sweater vests I was so close to the one when he played Tulane in Ullman Stadium that I could smell the polyester synthetic fibers as he left the field. He left right past me. Number two, you're exactly right. You're exactly right. That will be a very pivotal game for Florida. You get beat by UCF, and you've got another 3 losses on that schedule before that. Yeah, the hot seat will go. I will tell you
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, I was going to say, I will tell you the easiest litmus test of when they're done with Napier in Florida. It's a real easy litmus test. And Brenden will probably agree with this. It depends on the number of frozen orange juice screwdrivers that are thrown up against the wall up in the Bull Gator Club. If he hits more than 5 a game, he's toast.
Yeah, and here's what we've seen happening. These mid-season firings. Remember when that one gentlemanly, we had Stallings would say, "Oh, you have a contract with a man. I think you should honor the contract." And to be fair to Stallings, he would say, "I think that whoever the coach should honor the contract too, and not try to renegotiate it midterm." But that doesn't play with Jimmy Sexton. But if you look, here's the problem for Napier and for Florida decision makers. If they lose to UCF, then you're not going to beat Georgia in Jacksonville. You're just not. If they do that, man, Billy Napier just bought himself some time. Then they go to Texas. They host LSU. So there's 3 or 4 more losses before you even get to the rivalry game with Florida State. And you don't want to set a situation up where if he beats Florida State in an exciting game, then you've got to keep him another year. So, I mean, I think that off week, October 26th, could be one to watch in Gainesville unless Billy Napier gets it going.
All right, let me get this. Brenden, if you could put up the schedule for Alabama, I'd like to take a look. Kalen DeBoer, look, nobody wants to be the one to follow Nick Saban.
Yeah.
Ray Perkins, when he took over the job at Alabama, one of my friends got a call. He was a young sports anchor in Memphis, got a call from a big Alabama booster, and he said, "Hey, you want to come meet Alabama's new coach? He's in my living room." And he went and met Ray Perkins. Ray Perkins left the Giants to come back home. Of course, Ray Perkins is from Petal, Mississippi, which is right near, not too far from Hattiesburg. But he took down Coach Bryant's tower, Doug. Remember that? And I think the lesson that we learned then was it's not as much fun in a rivalry when your other team in the rivalry is struggling. I mean, I'm one of these people that wants my opponents. I want you to win every game you play. I just want to be the one to beat you because TV is not interested in 2-2-9 teams in the Iron Bowl. They're not interested in 2 500 teams in the Magnolia Bowl. They're not interested in 2 4-6 teams in Tennessee and Alabama. Doug Dean, I see you looking at that schedule for Florida. It's a brutal schedule, but Alabama's, let's look at it. Golden Flake A-Day game, they won that, but they'll open up with Western Kentucky, University of South Florida. Now, we know they had a tough one last year when I believe Jalen Milroe was suspended for the game. They've got to go to Madison, Wisconsin. They're playing at Wisconsin.
That was tricky because they've got Luke, Wisconsin's coach, Rob.
Luke Fickell.
Yeah, Fickell is a highly regarded coach. I think Alabama wins that one, but since it's early in DeBoer getting his systems and processes in, that one, I think most Bama fans would say we expect to win that one, but it's early to call it a blowout win. And
well, Doug, what's one of the more underrated fun places to go is on the peninsula there in Madison, Wisconsin. You know what? It'll be a lot cooler there than it would be a day game in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. But look, if you look at the winningest programs in the last 20 in this century, Wisconsin's one of them. I mean, Barry Alvarez, when he came there in the early 90s, he made football a priority at Wisconsin. But then the Georgia game, September 28th, Bryant-Denny Stadium. Now, how big will that one be? On paper right now, it looks ginormous.
And this goes back to why I'm a little skeptical for Georgia. I think I want to see Alabama in the first few games, but they get an off week ahead of Georgia. They'll get tested good, which I think DeBoer likes. Get a good test at Wisconsin, then an off week to prepare for. I think Alabama beats Georgia again, and I think I'm gonna be in a minority predicting that.
All right, let's scroll on down. South Carolina comes in. Then they go to Knoxville, October 19th. I was at that last game in 22 up in Neyland Stadium, and Miss Audrey was in tears when they formed the giant T, and the band, the Pride of the Southland band, comes out, and Tennessee comes running out there. That is an incredible scene. If you haven't been to Knoxville for a game, it is so unbelievably cool, and they won Alabama bad. Nico Iamaleava. I got it right. I think he's going to be the most talented quarterback athletically that ever has signed with Tennessee. I don't think it's close.
You think Alabama blows out Tennessee?
No, I'm saying Nico Iamaleava, the quarterback they signed who played in the bowl game. I think athletically he is so on another level. They've never seen anything like it. I'm not saying he's Peyton Manning, but athletically, he's going to be able to do things unlike any quarterback. And they've had some great ones. I mean, the Sylvan Streak, remember Jimmy Streeter from Sylvan, North Carolina? That's one of the greatest athletes ever to play quarterback. Iamaleava was that good. And their edge rusher, Pierce, might be the #1 prospect in the draft, according to Pro Football Focus. That Tennessee-Bama game, October 19th, I'm going. That's going to be a big showdown. And then Missouri, Lee.
Well, let's focus on, and boy, my apologies to our good Bama fans who tune into your show. They deserve better than an LSU and Auburn guy talking about their season. But you'll have Rodney, the great Rodney Orr on soon, I'm sure. And Bob will find a way to talk about Alabama tomorrow. And Barnhart, Mr. Football, will find a way to talk about Georgia, and why not? They're both great programs right now. But I think here's the calculus for Kalen DeBoer for this season and how it could go really, really good, or it could be dicey. Take the Georgia game. Jalen Milroe almost certainly is going to be strong, fully in command as the starter, undisputed starter going into the Georgia home game. But if Georgia causes him trouble and Alabama needs some accuracy and efficiency through the air to win that game, if Milroe struggles or throws a couple of picks, a la the Texas loss at home a year ago, then they get a stretch. That's going to be a pivotal point for Kalen DeBoer. Does he roll the dice and bring either Ty Simpson or, I think more likely, 6'7" Austin Mack, who transferred from Washington, will already know the DeBoer system. So whatever happens in the Georgia game is going to probably tell you how prepared and confident Alabama is going to Neyland Stadium 3 weeks later, October 19th.
Yeah, and look at that schedule for Bama. They got Missouri coming in town the following week after playing Tennessee in Knoxville, and then they got to take the trip to Baton Rouge. Doug Dean, Frank Duffy, Frank, look at that. And then Mercer, and then Oklahoma to close out the season out in Norman on the road. And then Auburn comes to town. They've got, talk about tough schedules, Frank Duffy. Alabama, they've got a murderer's row there at the end of the season, it looks like.
They do, and I'm telling you what, the honeymoon's going to be a short one for old Caleb DeBoer, because when you've had the greatest of all time and you've had that experience, trust me, I can speak on this. If my Bama buddies need some help on getting over this and getting through this, I could be a wonderful sounding board from them, because it's been tough watching what was the greatest coach for your team sail off into the sunset. So it's going to be a very interesting, to say the least, season in Tuscaloosa. And I think, to Doug's point, it could get ugly early if there is not.
Hey, Frank, plug your mic back in. We're getting all that ambient noise. You unplugged your mic from your phone. Yeah, okay. Doug Dean, take that one.
I just, there are two Duffys that are my favorites, Rob. There is Homer Duffy, who's unabashedly believes in his LSU Tigers, and it's just fun to listen to. Then there is Butthurt Duffy.
Yeah.
The butthurt Duffy that is still bitter about the referees throwing a game at Alabama LSU game. And
no doubt. And Patrick Peterson was still in bounds in 2009. I go to my grave for that.
Rob, let me give. You were looking at Alabama's schedule, and I agree with that, Duffy. That it's like Greg Richardson was tackled in bounds in that 85 Tiffin field goal game. But anyway, the Iron Bowl, Auburn, Alabama. These are these trends that really don't matter, but they seem to rear their head. November 30th. Remember that date, Rob. It's Bo Jackson's birthday, my birthday, Mark Twain's birthday. Auburn, the Iron Bowls that were played on November 30, 1957, 40-0 Auburn, the national championship year. Kick 6 year, 2013 was November 30th. Yep. 2019, that 48-45 barn burner was November 30th. This coming season, November 30th, Bryant-Denny Stadium.
Wow.
Now I do have to add, there's reality. The 85 Tiffin field goal game was also November 30th. The Lord humbles us, right, Duffy? He will humble you. So,
that's right.
I think by the time we get to that Iron Bowl, most people will be, it's in Tuscaloosa. Auburn doesn't have a chance. Maybe I want to see both teams play and mature through the season, but I think we might get another barn burner Iron Bowl. I don't care where it's played.
Hey, Doug. Doug. After 5 years, I didn't think there was anything I didn't know about you. It was your birthday on Kick 6?
Yeah.
Oh, that's freaking awesome! What a present.
Are you kidding? And when the game's over, I said, you better believe I'm rushing the field. They can arrest me if they want to.
That's still, I gave the 2 tickets that I had, Section 42, awesome. Doug. Section 42, had a client of mine and his wife gave us their tickets. So I let Wilson and Max have my tickets. And I just figured I'll just, buy scalper tickets. Forget about that. They were insane. And I told some people, I said, I'm going to save that money and buy souvenirs because Auburn's going to win this game. They said, you're crazy. I said, no, I'm not. I said, but after the game, I'll never forget running into the stadium and seeing my friend Sid Sherman. And she said, Al's in there somewhere. He got so excited, he lost his wallet. So somewhere on that field, and he found it. Next thing you know, I'm standing at the 50-yard line on the AU, just me and Greg Carr. And I don't know where my boys are. My daughter didn't come. And I looked at Greg. I kid you not. Everybody was over in the corner. ESPN had Chris Fowler and Gus Malzahn. Later, I realized my son Max was jumping up in between the two of them with shakers, surrounded by the Auburn cheerleaders at 13. What a life. And I'm talking to Greg Carr, and I said, Greg, you remember what Coach Dye said in November of 1983 when Auburn won 13-7? He said, as that sun set in the sky there in Athens, between the hedges, Auburn had won. I said, that gives you chills on the back of your neck, doesn't it? And Greg Carr looked at me and he said, damn right it does. That was so cool to be there. But happy birthday in advance, Doug B. Dean.
Look, I have to, when it's played in Tuscaloosa, I have to prepare for it being a bad birthday. But it's just these trends are interesting to follow, and they make prop bets for a Super Bowl. But I'm looking at that Kick 6 game. I'll never forget. I left the stadium, and it was probably pushing 11 p.m. You know how those kind of games. Oh yeah. And by the way, fairness, Alabama fans, that Auburn needed Alabama to do some incompetent things to even have a chance at the end. And Alabama, really big games. One team seems to lose it more than another team wins it. There are exceptions to that. And that particular day, who could have seen it coming that Cade Foster, who had not missed a field goal all year, misses 3 or 4, had one block, but missed 3 in the Iron Bowl. That's the only reason Auburn had a chance to make the Kick 6 what it was. But I left the stadium, and here's how you know a game was monstrous. my cell phone, which barely had any battery life left, started blowing up. I had 6 different text messages at pushing midnight from across the pond in England.
Yeah.
Friends I have who said, "Did I just see that? What just happened?"
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, when a game
Doug,
goes global, it's big.
yeah, and I remember my I had so many texts that it ran my battery out. There were hundreds, and it was just wild. But I listened to a lot of deep thinking motivation, and I listened to this great take. This is why you got to let it all out as a fan. Don't be afraid to think you're great. And it says, what if you lived your whole life? And we all think of as we die in our bed, we're laying there, and all of our family and friends and loved ones are there. But also, if you don't do and use every talent God gives you, all your dreams and hopes and talents that God gave you, if you don't use them, they're going to be standing there going, you know what? We were given to you and came to you for you to be great, and you never used us, and now we must go to your grave with you. There's nothing wrong with believing as a fan you're going to win every game, and I believe absolutely. Coach Dye, you picked the coach, Charlie Pell. Charlie Pell is one of the guys that got blamed for everything when what he did, according to everybody I've talked to with Florida, was teach Florida people that didn't matter whether you went to the University of Florida or not. If you want to wear an orange T-shirt and pull for the Gators, you can do it, but you got to think big.
Rob, since we covered not all 14, or actually 16, Texas and Oklahoma.
Look at the background over my shoulder. Look
that
at that.
Was gas, man. Slapped me around. Mizzou, we got to talk about. Mizzou is probably my second team that has the most favorable schedule right after Ole Miss. And I'll tell you why. They play no one. It's similar to Auburn. They play no one the entire month of September, unless you count Vanderbilt or Boston College. They get an off week, September 28th. Then they're at Texas A&M. That's a winnable game, you would figure. Mizzou's good. They get Auburn at home. They go to Bryant-Denny. They'll probably lose that, but you can drop one. So it's for them, it may come down to, can they beat the Oklahoma Sooners at home? And all of a sudden, Mizzou is in the talk about playing an SEC championship game.
Well, and you're right. And Paul Feinbaum said they're going to be, I talked to him a little bit afterwards and put some stuff on the show Tuesday. They're going to be in Austin one day and Norman the next, July 1st and 2nd, it looks like. And, of course, we got media days 2 weeks later in Dallas. We'll be out there. It's at the Omni downtown. But you're right about Missouri. And you think how much fun those Missouri folks are going to be having playing Oklahoma, because they played them for a long time. Now, you always get Oklahoma doesn't consider Missouri a rival. Well, they don't until they beat you, okay? And then you think about Arkansas, Texas. You talk about a rivalry. My God. There are as many Texas kids at the University of Arkansas as there are Arkansas kids, if not more. All right, let's look at that Missouri schedule, Doug. Let's go down it. Start off with Murray State. Then you got Buffalo, Boston College in Columbia, Vanderbilt, Texas A&M in College Station, UMass at Amherst, and then Auburn in Columbia, October 19th, Alabama in Tuscaloosa the next week, Oklahoma, that's in Columbia at Faurot Stadium, South Carolina in Columbia, South Carolina, Battle of Como, Mississippi State in Starkville, Arkansas at home to end the season in Columbia. Your thoughts again? That's an interesting schedule. Not a killer schedule, I don't think.
Well, and it's not, and at the risk of being the homer that I am capable of being, aren't we all? Except those who have to fake it like they're objective, like Reese Davis, people on media, they're faking it. We know you've got a favorite team. Come on, but
it's okay.
I'll tell you, with Drinkwitz got to be thinking about. Auburn could be the team that breaks their heart. They can't lose that home Auburn game, I don't think, and still be in the hunt, because you're not going to very likely go into Bryant-Denny and win that one. You could, but that puts a lot of pressure, and so they've got to beat Auburn, and that'll be a swing game for Mizzou.
All right, in Missouri, they've got Williams Nawari. He's like a top 5 player in the country out of Lee Summit North up there in Kansas City, has already committed, and he's getting a pretty big NIL deal because he's an in-state kid. Here's an interesting factoid about Missouri. And I want to give credit to Dennis Dodd, who was on the show last Thursday with us. He writes so much good stuff, as does Tony Barnhart. And I wish Paul Feinbaum still wrote as much. But, Dennis talked about in 2007, remember Mark Mangino versus Missouri. That was 1 versus 2 in the border war. And they 10 of the 11 starters on offense for Missouri that year were in-state kids. The only out-of-stater was quarterback Chase Daniel. No surprise. I think he was from Westlake down in Austin. But the Missouri people, Eli Drinkowitz, they've got a unique deal. If you're an in-state kid and you commit to Missouri or sign whatever, you can start receiving NIL money while you're still in high school. And this kid is talking about his prom, and he's probably got a pretty hefty amount of money to get his own limo. He won't be sharing with, 6 other couples. But I think Eli Drinkowitz is kind of crazy smart, Doug. I'm with you on that.
Yeah, I bet you Mizzou fans are elated with having him as their head coach because you start when you're not a perennial power in whatever sport. Step 1 is to become quickly relevant. Would you say that Mizzou was relevant last year, Rob?
Yeah, and don't even try to tell me because Kyle McCord, the quarterback, had transferred to Syracuse. Some of those other guys had quit on their team. Missouri dominated them 14-6 in the Cotton Bowl. Look, the Missouri boot heel is as southern as it gets. That is the Delta. Their fans, you got to remember, they got St. Louis 107 miles to the east on I-70, Kansas City about 3 hours to the west on I-70, and they have to put up with a lot of big-time NFL, Major League Baseball pressure, but their fan base is as southern. Listen, I've been around Missouri fans. They love boiled peanuts, cold beer, and anything with bacon, cream cheese, and butter on it. They're southern people. I mean, they're maybe in the northern part. They're a little confused.
If you say so, it's probably not fair of me to be a history revisionist about the context of when was it Mike Slive that would have brought Mizzou and their partner into the SEC?
Yeah.
And, you needed a footprint. I must say, I think they're a bubble team for me on the question of are they really a deep South football team? I don't think they're a perfect fit, but they're here now, so let's let them compete and bring to the table what they can.
Well, I'm saying the boot heel is southern. Now you get into St. Louis, that's definitely Midwest. There's no question about it, and that's all I'm saying. It is. If you get down to the Ozarks in that area, but it is different when you get. St. Louis has 35 pretty affluent suburbs. There's a ton of money there. Kansas City, same thing. But you're right. But I think Oklahoma, Doug, them coming in the league, Alabama's got to play at Oklahoma. But you talked about Oklahoma's first road game as a member of the SEC is at Jordan-Hare. And I hope that it would be a cool night game for that one. When Boomer Sooner comes driving out on the field.
Rob, after the show, and you can text me, y'all can talk about it in a future show, but I'd love to see who, if not Auburn, Oklahoma at night, who's the marquee game that day. And I hope that whoever is afternoon is a little more interesting game because Oklahoma needs to experience Jordan-Hare at night.
Yeah. Well, and even though Auburn has been mired the last 3 years in, about 500 level football, it's called equity, sweat equity. When you've got a program that was founded February 20th, 1892, Piedmont Park, Atlanta, Georgia, Auburn 10, Georgia, nothing, a crowd of 5,000 there. You over that time period, all your success, you're the 12th winningest program in the history of college football. Oklahoma's like 5th or 6th. That's what people are looking at. These last 3 years have been crappy, but look at Alabama, 97-07, an 11-year period, including Saban's first year. 8 of those 11 years, they lost 5 games or more. You think Alabama fans sit around and think about those 11 years, including Saban's first year? No, they're looking at what happened once Saban. That's how college football fans have short memories, Doug Dean. And that's the thing I noticed. You have to, don't you? You got to, did you hear what I listened to a tape the other day? Matthew McConaughey, that guy is wicked smart from Uvalde, Texas. And he said he was talking about a friend of his who used to have a bad coke problem. And he said one time he was at a function and Darrell Royal was there. And he walked up to Coach Royal and he had white powder under his nose. He goes, I couldn't believe it. And Coach Royal the next day he went over to Coach Royal's house to apologize. And he said, Coach Royal was a man of few words. And he said he got through and he said, let me tell you what I would do. He goes, Coach Darrell Royal said, I've never had a problem on folding the page or turning the page on my past and moving to the next page, the next chapter. He goes, you got this. We're going to be, I've been to Austin a few times. Keep Austin weird. Norman, Oklahoma. Now you talk about every county in Oklahoma is a red county. Now Texas is a blue island in a blood red state. But Doug, we're going to have to take some road trips. You, me, Frank, Dave. They're going to be fine. We got to do it. We got to get we got an RV. Bingo one. Let's just get those tires checked.
Well, I was kind of bummed out that Auburn doesn't get Texas, so we'll have to wait a little while for that trip to Austin. But there's going to be a bunch of them. I'm not there. I'll have to look at the schedule. But yeah, road trip we did a year ago. It was at LSU. Got our head handed. So we get a little break from Death Valley, which is I can't say I mind, other than the fans and the tailgating, which is second to very few in Baton Rouge. So it's going to be a fun year.
Yeah, Doug, we're about wrapping up out of time. Hopefully you can join me tomorrow. It's going to be fun. We lost Duffy. That's the interwebs, whatever it is. But let me say this, folks. Smash that subscribe button on YouTube and follow what we do. Thanks to all of our guests, our awesome executive producer, Brenden Martin, putting up all these schedules like this. He just hears us talking, bam, there it is. But also check out the Buddy Martin Show at night, 9 p.m. Eastern, live on YouTube. It's out there everywhere, part of the SEC Sideline Sports Network and SECU. Tomorrow morning, Mr. College Football, Tony Barnhart and Paul Feinbaum will join us on the show. Most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us, and we live in the greatest country in the history of the world. Doug Dean, be careful out there among the English. We'll see you tomorrow, folks. It was great.
See you, bud.
Boss of the Vitamin Shop. 2 locations, Olive Branch and Oxford, Mississippi. Proud to have them as a sponsor of SEC Sidelines, Sports Network, and SECU. Justin, tell us about your stores and why somebody wants to come there.
Rob, thanks for having me. Look, really 3 reasons, I think, why people should come to the Vitamin Shop. One is products. We've got more products than anyone. You're talking vitamins, you're talking sports nutrition, you're talking energy drinks, snack bars, all of that. We've got as much product as anyone in the business. 2, prices. We got the best prices, and we will price match, Rob. If you go to Walmart, you go to Amazon.com, you go to Target and find it, we match. Why not shop local, shop with us? And then finally, our health enthusiasts. The people that work in our store know more about vitamins and supplements than anyone I know. If you come in with any problem, they will help you to find a vitamin or a supplement or any product that will help you for that problem.
Yeah, I shop there. My wife does. We love it. I think the employees make the difference there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Super helpful. And the knowledge is just unbelievable. Knowledge of the products, knowledge of the human body, fitness, wellness, all that.
Yeah. Look, you get 1 trip to the plate, make it count, take care of yourself. Shop at the Vitamin Shop, Olive Branch in Oxford, Mississippi. Proud to have them as a sponsor of Sidelines.
Thanks, Rob.
In a perfect world, you'd set a health goal and results would happen overnight. In this world, the real world, it takes time, dedication, and the right support to achieve your best self. The Vitamin Shop's health enthusiasts are here to make sure you're not wasting a single moment on the wrong supplements. From the highest quality sports nutrition and superfoods to the most sought after trends, you'll find a huge variety of science-backed solutions for every goal. And the people to help guide you along the path to greatness.
Unbelievably, every 2 minutes in our communities, a child is either bought or sold for sex. I am Ari Dickey, board member for the Nashville Anti-Human Trafficking Coalition. Join me and millions of others in our fight against human trafficking and for its victims by helping to educate the most vulnerable among us, our middle and high school students. Go to nhtcoalition.org, become a partner, and help keep our families safe, because none of God's children are for sale.